So please welcome Robin Jelinek to the show. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, all the way from Bainbridge Island. And I'm saying that because I have a lot of Washington listeners, because that is where I'm from. And, I've discovered you and probably over a year ago and have gone and listened to you. And now knowing you are going to be with me on this Zoom interview for an hour, I just loved learning about you and your life. And there's probably like a few years age difference, so it's kind of fun to see when you started to, because I've always been a seeker and a spiritual, everything I could read. I was always at the bookstore and always giving advice to friends, but I don't know where it was coming from. People would say, I remember when you used to make me write I am statements, and I said I did, or doing little things that in my mind at the time I didn't realize. But as when I look at your life and I see I mean, you got married a lot earlier and had your family earlier than I did. My girls are 16 and 19,
Mhm.
so, and 56 years old. So waited later, but I searched. I did all my little spiritual things and learned my magic and discovered how powerful, as soon as you surrender and trust, that my life started to transform. And it was just my life before children was my like, oh, and then I got to have raised children with that magic. So becoming that intentional parent, teaching them that early, and I heard you talking on an interview saying how, as a mom, what you didn't have, you do, you do the contrast. You're like, I'm going to do this extra because I didn't have that. And I
Mhm.
realized all the things that I didn't have, I learned, and then I got to parent in the way with these tools. But to introduce you and the life that we all signed up for this time in this history of this earth. And I feel like your story for sure really puts a spotlight on someone who decided to come here in Robin's body, your little soul, your aspect of God, came here and said, I'm going to do this. And when I turn 60, like, when I get later in life, it's going to be where I get to help people. And you're a woman of service, and that comes from your heart. And you're an amazing mother and grandmother. And you just feel it when I listen to you talk. And I just know that that's why this group, Athena, chose you because they knew you'd want to serve and help people. So, with that introduction, Robin, can we go back to in your 20s and or however you were raised, or how you want to start
Yeah,
explaining to people how you discovered your
absolutely.
magic, uncovered
Yeah,
it?
I had a really good mother. I think she did a really nice job. I wouldn't say she was overly sappy with the I love yous or any of those types of things, but her actions spoke of love. I mean, that's the kind of woman she was. And so I had that in my life as I felt like a good role for me. My father was not very present and wasn't my favorite person. He was a little more harsh and back in those days, the men didn't help that much, or at least my father didn't. He wasn't really involved with the raising of the children. And of course, he was just the breadwinner, and we were all kind of scared of him. So I always kind of missed that. I never had that father that you hear some people talk about that makes you feel special. I never really had that. However, I feel like my mother gave me the selflessness or the ability to be selfless by her actions, by the way that she lived her life. So I just want to give that to her. She's gone now. And she came over here from England and didn't know my father very well. She met him during the war. So just to take that leap of faith and come all the way over to a strange country and raise six girls. There were six in our
Oh,
family.
wow.
Without much help. I mean, my father didn't really help her very much. So I would say to some degree, there was some turmoil in my life. My father could be kind of harsh, with my mom. I haven't talked a lot about that. In going through that, you do develop some people pleasing ways, and so there's been a lot of things that I've had to observe in myself during this process. So in my 20s, I think how it all started, which is kind of silly. My husband and I were driving somewhere, and I was in my early 20s, and I stopped to get a coffee at Barnes and Noble, and I looked to the side, and there was a little book that said, what if this is all just a dream that we're having? And I just felt like something ignited me when I
Oh,
saw that this is like a projection of consciousness, more of a dream state that we're in. And I picked up the book and looked through it while my coffee was getting ready, and of course I didn't buy it. And I got back out in the car, and I was telling my husband on the drive about this really interesting book, and that it really resonated with me. And I think that kind of started the whole thing. Then I started, looking at a lot of different spiritual teachers. I read literally hundreds of books. I couldn't get enough of it, from A Course in Miracles to, you name it. I've been through it. Sylvia Browne, any type of psychic book I could get my hand on, I just read and read and read. And that went on for a period of 20 years into my early 40s. And then my kids went to college, and that was a period where I felt like grief. It felt like I lost someone because I was very
hmm.
close to my boys. And when they left, I just felt sad. I'd go in their room and cry and sit on the edge of their bed because they were gone. They were such a big part of my life. And then I had more time. So I was working in our business at the time, and I started doing a little more practices. Like I just was interested in breath work and different things like that. And I remember picking up a book called Ancient Teachings for Beginnings. This guy owes me money, by the way. Every
I've
time
heard
I
you
bring it
talk
up, people
about.
buy that book. At the time, there was one for beginners and one for advanced teaching, and I had gotten them both. Now, whether this actually caused a spiritual awakening or not, I'll never know, because there's a lot of people that get a spiritual awakening and haven't read his book. So it's not to say that if you run out and buy the book, you're going to get one. But I did use the teachings in there really resonated with me. I did a lot of breathing into my chakras, and I started to, for me, feel like a lot of the keys to spirituality were held in those energy centers, and that they were the connection between the divinity part of us and the human aspect of us. So I started doing some practices in there where I would nightly, breathe into each one of the energy centers and feel myself. And I started to recognize in centers that were clogged or had a lot of energy held, like negativity held. They also related to parts of my life. And so when I got to the heart center, there'd be like a lot of heavy throbbing in that center. And that's kind of a signal that you're containing some energy, which is denying flow. It's not really allowing the flow of the universe to reach you in that area of your life. And so I became very interested in feeling myself and understanding where I had trapped energy. And that's a great part of the work that I ended up doing now. And so in that process, I had a full Kundalini awakening after 2.5, 3 months of doing the breath work and some observation and focus on those energy centers. I had what all the bells and whistles, the loud noise, the rise of that energy puncturing each one of the energy centers, and then feeling the lava run through them, and all the textbook start type things that happen with that. And then after what happened, again, because I didn't know all aspects about that energy at the time, I went into what was called the dark night of the soul for about 2.5 years. So my friendships flattened out. All the things I used to love to do, I had no interest in doing. I soon hoped that I could put that genie back in the bottle, because my life was not fun anymore. And very sad, like an outpouring of
Oh,
sadness and crying sometimes and not knowing why. And these are all things that happen, I understand now, because of the work that I do in having that activation. The dark night of the soul is really a hating of oneself in everything that's disconnective. So we start to see what it is that we've called for. We want to know what's separating us. How are we separating ourselves from our source? But then when we see it, we start to condemn and judge and not like ourselves in the emotions we're attached to. Maybe I'm a controlling person or a jealous person or an angry person, and I start to feel that that's what I am. And so then I hold the frequency of those emotions, and I become not a match to flow, not a match to my source. And so I'm the one that's always been doing it. After a while, I figured out that it's through the love of self. Excuse me, and the surrender to what is felt. Self-love means I accept myself and I surrender to any emotion that I feel in my life. I have that right. I don't condemn, I don't judge, I don't try to change anything that I feel because it's already gone out into creation. I can't change it. There's no pulling it back. Once I moved to that understanding, what non-attachment was really acceptance. It was surrender. It was allowing of myself to feel my experience exactly the way that I was feeling it. And that made me very connective to flow. And then things started to change. I started to enjoy life more, got happier, and started to re-engage again. And a lot of experiences in my life became more satisfying because of the view of myself that I was holding. And so, what I've learned in this process is that we can create unconsciously, and that's in suffering and emotions that feel negative, or we can create in divinity consciousness, which is by being aware and awake of the feeling we're having. That doesn't mean that you don't feel negativity. You're allowed to feel any one of the emotions, but you have to do it and be awake that you are creating with it. That awakeness allows the flow of the divine to reach your energy centers and actually dissipate the negativity that is held unconsciously that you've not been able to let go of. That process will happen very naturally on its own as you start to view what it is that you are picking and choosing by the emotions you're feeling. And so then what happens is there's a very natural rise in consciousness. In observation of yourself, your frequency starts to rise and you pop up and you find yourself in a place where old tones or old frequency emotions don't exist. So have I really worked hard on myself and gotten better? Not really. I just got more allowing, more surrender, which allowed more flow to reach me that carries you to a place where negativity, in fact, doesn't exist. You just don't have those feelings anymore at that level of consciousness. So you are changed by it. So you start to be less condemning, less judging of yourself. You allow yourself to feel the full spectrum of emotions, and know that you're creating with them. I am angry and I'm creating more happiness with it, for example. And so as this happened, things just started to improve. And I know I just felt more passion in my life, more health and wellness, more connectivity to people. All of those things started to follow that frequency. And then I would say, so that went on. And the thing about Kundalini energy is it's a lifelong process. It's something that's coming and going. It can be very active for a while, and then it can completely shut down and nothing happens for several years. And then you'll feel very called to maybe do more sit time or more breath work, or something will spur you into action to kind of pursue it again. And I would often say in interviews, I couldn't really determine whether I was chasing it or it was chasing me. It was kind of hard to determine which of those things it was. And so, at different periods of time, I would have out of body experiences and things that would happen that were very confirming to me that I was not just the human that I thought that I was. So it became very easy for me to believe and to trust that there was this higher reality, this greater aspect of myself, that it was existing alongside of me at the same time. And then, as you spoke in the beginning and mentioned about the work that I'm doing, I too, once in a while, see myself going in these directions. And I think this is not me. This is a higher aspect of me pushing me along, pulling me in all of these directions. I recently had light language enter my experience, and I have a lot of exchanges with people with their own light language and with my own. And when it first happened, I thought, I don't know if I can share that. I'm already crazy enough as it is. But you know what? Not very long after that, it just started very naturally being exchanged in sessions and in interviews, and the response in positivity and the changes that were happening to people because of it were too great to ignore. So it's something that I use regularly now. And so then, probably fast forwarding a little bit, in my late 50s or early 60s, I did some breath work. I just felt, but I don't really think it was the breath work that caused it, because I barely entered into it. I just laid down and maybe took one or two breaths. And I noticed that my mouth was just like someone put their finger in the side of it, pulled it, one way and then the other way. There was a lot of nose twitching. That's something that's pretty common with channelers. Like my eyes would leak. It wouldn't be coming from the tear duct. It would just leak steadily from the corners of my eyes. Lots of bodily movements without me doing it could happen. Automatic mudras started in every direction without me knowing what they were or why they were happening. And I didn't know that I was going to channel at that time. I had no idea what that was. And then shortly after that, we met one of my younger son at his house in Fort Lauderdale, and we were sitting out on the deck, and I was telling him some of the things that were happening. And as soon as I started talking about it, all of the symptoms started, the twitching, the, movement of my face. And he said, well, it looks like something's in there that maybe would like to talk to us. And it was by invitation that it actually started. And then that's when the channeling began at that point. In the beginning, it was uncomfortable. I think it really was hard on my voice box, and it felt very like arduous, like hard to do. I sweated a lot, and and I didn't like the feeling because of those things. You're really hot, and you felt like you were straining. But very quickly, it smoothed out. It was just acclimating over a couple of weeks. Then there was getting home from that trip. And realizing that something had entered in my life and changed it in such a way that I could never go back from. And I'm wondering, am I going to be able to do my laundry? Am my husband and I going to have the same relationship? It's like people are talking at all times of the night and day. And then in that request of being a little upset by all of the changes, it came to me through transmission that they're thought provoked. And if you would quit thinking about us, we would stop coming forward. And that's what I've done now. So I can go on a vacation for 2, 3 weeks and not really have a thought about them. There's nobody coming forward trying to add anything. The moment that I would think, oh, I wonder what they'd think of that. Or if someone has a discrepancy or a problem, I can kind of run, as soon as I start running it through my mind, of course, there's a transmission coming then. But it's gotten much more easy and much more acceptable and integrated into my life now after this period of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting listening to you explain how your husband, he loved, you've known each other pretty much your whole life, and he's watched this gradual,
Mhm.
Robin progress to this, channeler, and how he watches, or he's like, I got it, but you do
Yeah.
you and I'll do me.
Yeah, yeah, and we both had a very good a friend of ours was a channel that we met in our 40s, and so it's not that he doesn't believe in it. He loved
Right.
having sessions with her, and he believes in what I do and loves talking to the group when they come out. But in some sense, he's a breath of fresh air to me because he wants Robin most of the time. And sometimes when you're doing this a lot, or if you have everyone having expectations for you to do it all the time, you feel obliterated as a human. It's not like you have as much floor time or as much to add. And I would say very much in our relationship that doesn't happen. It's usually they come forward to chat a little bit with him, but it's not very often him asking.
Okay. Yeah. And but even the way your son said that and how open he is
Yeah,
to
both of my
saying,
kids are, and my
huh,
daughter-in-law are very, so I have a good support system around me. I think that would be really important to have, especially in the beginning, because you have a while to go before you are able to let go of how you worry about you're going to be perceived as. And in the beginning, my worst nightmare was somebody was going to see my YouTube, or someone that knew me as Robin was going to think I lost my mind. And there have been a few people that have thought that. And it's just I don't have any problem with that. I listen. Some days I have a hard time believing it, and I'm doing it. So I certainly don't hold it against anyone if it's not for them or they don't understand it. But it's really hard to deny truth when you get in those kinds of exchanges. So sometimes. I don't know if it's a fear or, I think some of it can just be your energy centers maybe aren't prepared for that or ready for that frequency, and therefore you just reject it or you're not open to it. So I can be like everybody's best friend, or I can be a best friend that nobody wants anymore. So it just kind of depends on, um, how that goes. So the people that are closest to me, I have one lifelong friend who is very accepting, and my family, of course, is. It makes it okay for me. And if they're like, even the light language, I was a little uncomfortable with that at first. And very quickly, that whatever that was just moved out of my field, and I was able to do it and not really be concerned about what other people think.
right. It's amazing. You think light language even a year ago would people, it's just, I mean, in these interviews that I have, it's pretty much a common word these
Yeah, well,
days,
it's coming. It's a higher level of consciousness communication that comes through the heart center, and so you can't understand the words with your brain, but you're able to perceive the wisdom and the knowledge and the truth. And every human is going to be able to do this and can do it. So they will be able to receive an exchange like that anywhere in the world and be able to sense and feel and know through the heart center what's intended by that exchange. And because of the level of frequency that light language resides at, there are no negativities, there's no judgment, there's no condemnation, there's no perceiving the wrong message, or like we can choose words sometimes that maybe aren't received the way that we actually want them to be. With light language, that's going to eliminate that problem. So this is going to be the type of communication of the future.
Yeah, and then telepathy and all these other, I look at the world and I want to ask you how you see, like, first of all, when you think of the light language and how it heals and how what you do with people and how you teach them how to do light language. Was that the same kind of feeling when you activated, got that, like where when you channel Athena, does it come through that way to you
Yeah.
when you do light
Um,
language?
Yeah, so when I do light language, there'll be if anybody's seen Paul Selwig, he kind of does a little something and then
Yeah.
repeats something. So light language is I as Robin can speak light language and then give a transmission of what was said. I can do that as myself.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
But I also, a lot of times, because I'm already channeling the group, I speak the light language and I just let them give the transmission. So it can happen either way. If I'm doing it with a family member or a close friend, I just do it as myself. I don't necessarily bring the group in for that exchange. So that's kind of how that sounds. I would say it feels very familiar. It feels like channeled response because it's very fluid, non-stopping, very truthful exchange that you think, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It just feels good in your guidance system when you get it. And so I think it felt very normal. However, one of the things that each individual is going to have to do as this starts happening to them and they get light language, the transmission will come secondary. It'll come later. So they will have to start perceiving and believing, and they'll maybe think inside of themselves, I think this means this. They'll have
Hmm.
a knowingness of what that exchange meant. So it's not like they're getting words. I'm not getting words. I just know there's something I know after the exchange. And that's something that, because of trust and belief, are going to become a big part of every human's experience in order to open up that ability. You have to just believe, how could I know? I can. I can know. We all have that ability to believe and to trust. And in that belief and trust, we become a direct match to the frequency of unconditional love. And that knowingness of what's being exchanged will just come right through you. And so it'll be a little bit of a adjustment period for people who maybe have a little energy built up here, which would mean they had violations in trust. Maybe their parent or spouse, someone that meant a lot to them, had violated their trust in their experience. That can cause a lot of layers of negativity in regard to trust to slow that center down. And so the perception that, or what you can get from the universe, isn't as clear if you're holding betrayals or lack of trust. Let's use that.
Right. When you did your, when you work on your chakras and you do and you clear it, and that's where you created the Kundalini experience. Do you work that? Is that something you do on a daily basis every day
Yeah.
now?
Not, no, not now. Once in a while, like if I would feel emotional for some reason, or I would have an experience that came to me that maybe didn't feel good to me, then I might lie down and breathe into each one of my inner centers and try to pick up where the energy is held that brought that experience to me. And it'll always be felt as a heavy throb. You'll be very easy for you to detect energy after a few breaths into that chakra. You'll start, it's like you're trying to push if you hung an infected finger upside down because it's already
Hmm.
full of infection, there's a throbbing sensation, and your energy centers are the same way. If they have an over containment of negativity, then when you're trying to intentionally, when you're in intention, you're bringing in divine light energy, you will start to feel a denial of that energy because of the frequency that you're holding in that energy center. So that's really where my expertise is. That's what I help. I can pretty much sit down with a client and not really have to ask a lot of questions, and I know where they contain energy. I can sense it and feel it and know it right away. And that's a lot of the work that I do in the Kundalini activations that we spend, anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours going into each one of the energy centers, basically guiding questions towards that area of their life to try to pick up on dissatisfactions or things that are going on that they might think there's an outside cause for. And then quickly they learn that everything has an inside cause, that the situation that they thought that they were experiencing that was bringing up an emotion was actually brought in by an old emotion that they were already holding. And as you peel those layers off, more and more get revealed underneath. And then eventually you thin it out enough. And then the rise of the Kundalini energy is a very natural thing that happens. When they leave the session, they'll leave with a practice and understanding from all the ahas that they had during the session of how they can continue that work on their own, because there's no way of knowing what each being is containing in those energy centers. We've all lived many lifetimes and we have lineages that we are a part of. And so the amount of entrapments or lower frequency energy that gets contained in those energy centers can vary from person to person. And so you just have to keep at it. You have to keep observing yourself and watching the experiences that are coming to you without condemning, without judging or trying to get rid of them, by just awakely observing yourself and the way that they make you feel. That's what dissipates energy.
Right. When you were hitting your third eye. So, okay. I do breath work pretty much every day. I have an app that I go in 10 minutes, sometimes a half an hour. It's like a craving.
Yeah,
But lately, and I also go to these Kundalini, it's called a Kali, and it's a sound where you lay there for an hour and a half, and it's just like emotional, and people, it's like people are moving, and and I go quite often for like once a month, sometimes twice if I have time. But my third eye was throbbing, has been throbbing, 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 throbbing. So when you were doing that and you're hitting that, I was like, oh my gosh, she knows my third eye was, it hasn't, it's like, it's been, I don't know. I'm like, is it activating my breath work, activating it? I was in a light system and I had my mask on and it was silk. The mask was silk, but I could feel the movement of my mask. And I had
yeah.
never felt that before.
Yeah. So I guess the question would be to you, have you had a lot of violations in trust or betrayals in your experience? Have you actually had maybe parents or whether it be a love relationship or it could be with a child or something with someone that really means something to you that ended in lack of trust or betray?
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, and most often the answer to that is yes. Um,
Right.
and if you've had that, then it is to really pay attention, to kind of sit with yourself and observe how that experience really made you feel. Oftentimes when a person gets betrayed or they get lied to, they'll go into secondary emotions of feeling like they've done something to deserve it. Maybe they're controlling, maybe they're jealous, and they feel that somehow underneath it all, that the bad behavior that they got from someone was their own fault. Well, in some sense it is, but that's not very nice to say. So what'll happen is you'll start to uncover things that are underneath, oftentimes the betrayal, which could be something you've attached to in a way that you've become because of it. Maybe you got jealous because you had someone that was sneaking around, or maybe you felt, unloved, and so you need lots of affirmations from people that you're with because of it. And then someone can say to you that that's a bad thing, or, why are you like that? And then you can start to condemn and judge, and that's the separating thing. It's not the emotion that you're feeling. Those are 100% accurate. You can't pick anything else when you're in those experiences. That's how it feels. But the recognition of, I've done it right, I don't have to do it over, and the acceptance of yourself in the way that you have felt your experience is what releases that energy.
Right. I love everything in your life is you. Everything that I see in my world is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. And I love anything that's triggering. I teach this with the girls, if they get triggered or something, I said, that's in you, or if that wouldn't have triggered me, honey.
People used to tell me that all the time, but sometimes I would be very confused by that because I would see a very selfish, very mean person. I'm thinking, how is that me? And I would struggle with that. And I think it's important to be clear that it's you are experiencing that experience because of a way that it makes you feel. It doesn't mean you have a likeness necessarily to the mirror. It means that that mirror is stimulating. So when we get a negativity or what we would call a feeling that doesn't feel well, we're getting a call to heal. So if we were to look at our life in every moment that the source part of you is flowing towards you a solution or a satisfying experience based upon what you have sent it and how you felt. It has no judgment, has no condemnation. It's totally fine with the full spectrum of the emotions, and it knows by those feelings what you prefer because of it. And so once you kind of understand that sequence, that when I feel a negativity, I'm blocking my source from delivering a very positive response to me. That's all that's happening. It's not about anyone else. It's not about an outside cause. It's about a universe that you've actually created that exists, that's trying to reach you, and then showing up at your door and finding some low frequency tones that are denying its entry. And so then you have the negative experience, and then you blame someone for it. And now you expand your negativity base and you get more and more of those experiences. The universe will never forsake you. It'll continue to bring you those mirrors till the day you die. And if you don't see them in experiences, it'll create physical symptoms or illness, other things to try to, and you'll feel the same way. The emotion that you'll feel in regard to those things will feel exactly like the experiences that you were getting prior to the condition. So I just think it's important to understand that, because that used to confuse me. I used to look at the person and try to find my likeness in this. That's not what it is. It's a
Right.
stimulant to what you have in your field.
Feel, yes. I love it. Let's go to Athena and how you, I mean, Athena in Truth is your website. And this group has come to you and let us talk to Athena.
What is it you would like to ask today?
Why did you choose Robin to, did Robin choose you or is she part of your group in another dimension?
Well, we would tell anyone that wants to channel that one of the most effective ways to become a channel is to be a question asker, or one that really wants to know. Robin, from the time that she was little, would lay in bed and wonder, will she know who she is when she leaves? Will she be an individual that will still exist once she leaves the body? And all of these types of things. The universe is an answer of questions. And so the more that you inquire, the more that you will receive or have opportunity to receive. And then we would say also that, of course, we have spoke about selflessness, and she did have this trait. And yes, it was brought to her through her mother, who was a good example of this way of being. She found it very satisfying to serve. And of course, we would find that satisfying because it is why we are wanting to communicate. We are wanting to be able to have access to someone who is willing to do the work, who's willing to, day after day, when encouraged or when feeling our presence, actually acts or moves in that direction. The other thing that Robin did quite well was she was a pebble follower, or one that would pick up the breadcrumbs. And so someone would mention breath work, for example, she would look it up. If someone would mention anything, whether it be an author or something, she would take that as a sign or signal of something she needed to know more about. And we would tell you that this is also something that would be highly recommended if you would like to obtain a better connection with the divinity aspect of yourself.
Was, is it the Athena, your group, were they leading the breadcrumbs since she was 20? Is that all part of the plan of her like soul contract with what she was here to do in this lifetime?
Yeah, well, we would tell you that there are many channels, and yes, Robin being included, she would be one that, as you would use the term chosen, or one that had the assignment. But we don't really like to use that analogy because everything that a human wants to create is accessible to them. So even if that were not your plan, or that was not something that was in your future, you still have the opportunity to be able to create that for yourself.
And she could have chose to ignore Athena.
Hmm. Absolutely, she could. Yeah. She doesn't even like to look at us with her eyes open. Yeah, she's perfectly capable of opening her eyes and continuing to channel. But there's still a little hook there, or hold there, where she doesn't actually like to see herself not as herself.
And why do you come to her at this time in our history on this earth?
Mhm. Well, we are, of course, here as a helper or as ones that are carrying those that are trying to help humanity rise in their frequency. But we would also tell you that primarily our focus or our goal was to come in and clean a little bit of house as far as religious dogma goes, or even in metaphysics, there became some dogma that practices were necessary, that perfection was necessary, that you could do this and not do that, and all of these types of things, that people would police themselves and try to stop certain feelings and emotions. These are the type of things that we came here to debunk. It's not natural, it's not possible, and it's not an effective way to gain access to the divinity aspect of yourself.
And in one of the things I was listening to about the new world already exists, people keep making it sound sometimes as it's one that's two separate things, but it already exists. Could you explain how that how we could understand that?
Yeah, so you as a human are experiencing for the divinity aspect of yourself, and you are using a wide variety of frequencies, emotions as signals in what it is you prefer. So, of course, if you have something you don't prefer, a negative signal would go out of you and it would be received by the divine, and it would know by that signal what your preference is. And so then it immediately culminates, it has the access to all that is, to all things, and it immediately goes to work on creating opportunities for you to feel the way that you have signaled that you would prefer to feel. And so those ways or opportunities or people and circumstances would flow to you very quickly, automatically, if you had released the emotion that was in a lower frequency that you created it in. So negativity isn't the problem. Holding on unconsciously, not realizing you are doing it, is the problem. Once you feel the emotion and you acknowledge, I am angry and I am creating with it, you are in consciousness. And therefore, that energy is being dissipated from your field, and you will no longer receive mirrored responses to it, you see. And so we have come to really try to clarify in a little bit more detail and give humans some relief, really, give them some understanding that there is an easy plan in place and that they are allowed to freely just feel their lives and live their life experience the way that they want to. They are not expected to police themselves or to try to stop feeling certain ways or to regret or try to suck back in perhaps a negative response they have had that's already gone out into creation, by the way, and been used for creation.
Can you explain what's going on in the human body as far as the DNA strands and how we're evolving from 2 or 3 level up to the 12th DNA and if how that process looks
Mhm.
in a human?
DNA gets activated by frequency. So the higher that the frequency of the planet rises, and individually, more and more of those inactive DNA strands will come into play and allow more of the senses or the ability to have spiritual connections, knowingness, the light language exchanges, all of these types of things are activating what you would call junk DNA or dormant DNA.
Can you explain what the children coming in now, yeah, their DNA, what the diff is it already expanded?
Yes, most of those, not all, but the majority of those that are entering the plane are expanded. Yes.
And what will they experience differently as a human than we did as our human in the
They
lower
will not
frequencies?
they will not create unconsciously. They will know who they are, what they are, and why they came. They will have the ability to focus in directions that are very satisfying to them, and they will know that they are the creators of their own experience. They will not blame, they will not judge, and they will not condemn themselves. They will live freely. And they will draw to themselves the result of the life that they have created just by living. So there will be no condemnation, no judgment. I think that some people have thought that perhaps negativity would be banished from the plane, or that no one would ever have a feeling again that was considered to be negative, and that's not what's going to happen. The feelings will still be used in creation. A human will still have a preference, and every time you have a preference, there will be a little bit of a sting to it, but it will be in non-attachment. I will no longer think I am controlling. I will feel control and know that I am creating a freeness or a way of creating that does not feel like control because of the emotion. So I will have consciousness. I will be aware of what the emotions I am creating with and what the result will be because of them.
What do you recommend for people? Because I live in a high vibration place and I understand what it feels like, and I know what it feels like when it drops. How do you explain to people to be into the frequency of that high vibration, fifth dimension, whatever you call it, above the earth frequency?
So if you are truly in the fifth dimension and you're not containing any entrapments at all, you will not drop, you see. If you drop, then there is something to be observed. There is something within you yet that is calling to be healed. And so it is to remember that there is no outside cause. There is nothing that is going to make you feel this way or that way. There's going to be a drop in your feeling because there is an emotional frequency that is being revealed to you, you see.
When you look at life from Athena, you look at the earth and you look at the humans and what they're going through. What does it make you feel like? Does it make Athena's group want to be there more, help more, or do you just know that they're all on their own journey and you're watching it all unfold?
So, in asking that question, would it be your belief or perception that the world is not a good place or that it isn't a bad place? What is your perception?
My perception, it is a good place, but I feel like it's moving into a higher frequency, into a better place. So I guess maybe I feel like it's there's movement into this, what you were explaining, how the children were going to be. Like that's where I feel like the earth is going to be.
Mhm.
But I guess my focus, if I don't focus on anything but that, then that's my reality.
Yeah, well, there is a personal reality that everyone is creating. Then, as you go out into the masses and you allow your focus to go to the studies or to go to the news or the things that you are applying your focus, and you decide to believe it or adopt it as your own, then you will see more and more of it. And it will become more and more of your individual universe, will reveal people and circumstances and things that actually lend itself towards what you have allowed your focus to go to. So it's very important. You can live a very peaceful, very loving, very happy, very prosperous, very healthy life if you keep your individual universe to yourself. Unfortunately, humans aren't very good at that. They like to watch studies and they like to believe in things that are put on the news, and therefore they become part of that study, and the results of it are also their results, aren't they?
Yes. Could you explain where you are as far as God, source, consciousness, and Athena, and how that all works together?
So we find it kind of funny sometimes when we are asked these types of questions, because if we were to ask you exactly where you are or who you are or what you are something that someone has named. You are something that thinks you are something that you are doing. But in some sense, you are consciousness, and so are we, you see.
When Robin was practicing and doing her clearing and getting her her Kundalini awakening, was that part of you helping her?
Any awakening that a human has comes through their desire. And of course, one pursuing it with fervency, one using practices, and one believing in them can actually precipitate the result that they are wanting to get. But we want you to know one thing, the thing that's really causing the thing is your desire. And so you use all kinds of tools, you use all kinds of things that you decide to believe in as the reason or the focus that has caused you to become connected, and then you allow it, you see. But it is not that thing that is necessary. It is your belief and your knowingness of who you are and what you are. And we hope today, as we have this exchange, that someone can move to that perception and belief and that they need nothing outside of themselves to do it.
Can we talk about healing? I would love to hear Athena's perspective on healing and sound and vibration and how the human is moving toward healing more on that and the frequency aspect.
Yeah. Well, you're asking in specifics if sound frequency has an effect on healing. Is this what we are asked?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Anything that is coming in a higher frequency and stimulating your energy centers is having a positive result or a benefit towards the human. If a human is holding a low frequency tone and then getting experiences over and over that match that feeling tone, they will start to contain more and more energy in that specific area of their body. As that energy center slows its spin, because they are all spinning at a very rapid and high frequency, if they are not containing entrapments, then there is a lot lot of life force energy coming in. When you have a lot of life force energy entering into each one of your energy centers, you have health, you have passion, you have wellness, and you have happiness. Yeah. If you have a lot of negativity held in any area of your life, perhaps relationships are not going well and you are saddened by them, and you are getting one negative relationship after another coming to you, you will start to contain more and more belief in an outside cause and therefore expand the number of faulty relationships coming, and you'll build up more and more energy in that center, gradually slowing it down. When an energy center becomes laggy or slowed down for a large amount of time to the degree where it's not hardly receiving any energy, you open yourself up for the possibility of the universe creating an illness or something that would draw your attention to that area of your body in the way that it would make you feel, you see.
So we create our own illness.
Well, not necessarily just you. You are connected to a long lineage, and you are also connected to all of the past lives and the present life that you are living and the way that you are feeling your experience. And so it is not just you, it is all the lineage that you are connected to. A lot of people think that it is, they call it inherited, but we would call it more an emotional content than we would call it something, as you call it, bodily inherited.
When Athena is where she is, where the consciousness is there a time, is it a time when there's no time, it's all happening at once? Could you explain it from your perspective, how you see time and timelines and how we can create different timelines as a human?
Well, we are ever present. So you are correct when you say that there is not a sense of time or an attachment, let's use that term, or something that we are keeping track of time-wise. It is not done that way. As a human is living their life, there are many probabilities and possibilities that are being produced in every moment that are actually creating reflections or other timelines or lifetimes that are being expressed at the same time while you are in the present life that you are in. Sometimes we humans want to ask more and more questions about this. However, it is our determination that it is not really applicable to the life that you're living unless you continue to raise your frequency, where in fact you might come into touch with some of the higher frequency choices or ways of being that have been created by the lives that you are living that will collapse yet into this lifetime. During the rise in consciousness that is going on right now, we are reaching levels of frequency that have never been reached before. So it is not a negative, it is a positive. And at the very highest levels of frequency, one can come into contact with the highest aspects of themselves or what they have become that is in greatness by all that they have lived. And so it is about making your frequency a match to that frequency of a part of yourself that has expanded itself greatly by every life that you have ever lived.
Oh, so frequency is a huge aspect of this new world. It is going to be what I'm getting is everything is frequency. We know we're all energy. And as the human evolves with the DNA and the children come into this earth, and the frequency will continue to expand and continue to rise. And once we get to that, is there an ending point, or are we moving to this place? The earth will always have a contrast, but we
There
are
is
always going
there
to
is
be
no
moved.
ending point, and everything, in fact, is like a pendulum. So there will always be a rise and a fall, a rise and a fall. But the rise will always continue to grow yet higher. Do you understand?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So when I say that we are reaching a higher level than we have ever reached before, it is because the expansion of the universe is ever growing or accumulating higher and higher. Yeah.
yes. Thank you. You can bring Robin back.
Mm.
I've
Okay, I'm
you
back.
Isn't that interesting how, I've interviewed and I've watched you, of course, but how quickly that can be. And when I've done my journal, my automatic writing for the last probably 3 years, and it's been a channel for me and a
Mhm.
trusting so when I watch you and you've encouraged me to trust more. You've encouraged me to realize that we all have this gift. I mean, we're all gifted. We've been so dumbed down to believe that we don't have that. And it's like it's such a neat experience to watch you, because I feel like anyone watching this is going to say, here little Robin is, just
Channeling
trusting.
is no different than any other experience. We're always going to have comparisons. We're going to look at other people that are doing it and think they're doing more or doing it better than we are, or doing something that we can't do. That's just the human part of you. That's not ever going to change or go away. So you have to really build that muscle, that belief and that trust and that knowing, and to know that each of you are and that are going to do channeling, it's individualistic the way that it will express. You're not necessarily going to do it the way that somebody else does it. It could come to you in a way, when this came to me, it was the last thing that I thought that I would be doing at my age. But, you have to be open to not trying to contain it or define it or think it's going to be the way that someone else does it. You have to just allow that it's going to come to you in a way that really satisfies you. And I've said this before in interviews. I personally am not a really outspoken person. I'm not one that's going to tell somebody just what I think, or, even if I am upset about something, I'm probably going to hold it. It's not really
Huh.
my thing to do that. And so to have a group come through that doesn't do that is very satisfying. So in some sense, they make you whole for a while. You find little bits of yourself starting to open up more and more as you do this. But what you're going to get in channeling is going to match you. It's going to be the same as anything else that you create in your life. It's going to be something that really fits your personality and satisfies you in an individual way that you can't do by yourself. Because the one thing I found interesting is we're not just being received in the life we are in. We've already been received in all the lives we've been in and our lineage. And so we're adding onto that wholeness, that bigger part of ourselves. So when a delivery comes, and when you talk about future timelines, it's so much bigger and better and magical than what you yourself could ever imagine for yourself, because you don't have all that data in the little body you're sitting in right now.
Right. Can you tell people, I went onto your website, you do these classes and sessions. Could you explain, because there's a few videos that you could watch and just learn from that, and but then you
Yeah.
have your big sessions.
Yep, I do 2 hours. It takes an hour and a half to 2 hours, so we don't stop until we get through every one of the energy centers. And those are the ones where we clear out a lot of entrapments and emotions that are held in the chakras, and can allow the Kundalini energy to rise, and then teach them a practice to continue that work until they lighten their field enough that they can actually have that experience. And they really learn a lot about themselves. They really get to know themselves and have some aha moments during those sessions. Then I do private 1 hour sessions, and those are great for like immediate life problems or things that people have going on. I have another website called Ask Athena where people can email in a question if there are no sessions available. They can use that opportunity to ask a question, and they'll get a very detailed answer exactly on the topic that they're asking about. And so I also do group activations for Kundalini, the same way that I do the privates. However, the time is divided up over 20 people. So people will work on each energy center, and it'll be intermittently, but everybody will get a chance and they'll get the understanding of how to do that work. And so I do those about every other month, and that's on my website. And I have some other downloadable courses on there that really go into my journey on Kundalini and what you can expect, and what I've learned in the process, and how to make that an easier experience for you. I get everyone from rises that they've had maybe 25, 30 years ago that have been very disruptive in their lives, and call it a Kundalini emergency sometimes. Some people can get really a lot of emotional problems because they don't really know what's causing their suffering. So I get a vast variety of people, but I think it's really what I was meant to do. I didn't realize it at the time. I've experienced every angle of that energy. I had it come down through the top of my head, which I had really never read about anywhere before. I had what was called a partial rise initially, where it veered off because it hit a block, and that created a lot of upheaval. And then it came back down through the head a number of years ago, where that kind of leveled everything out. So I think I've pretty much experienced everything you can with that energy, including a lot of out of body experiences that some people want to understand more about those. And of course, the light language is a big part of what I do now in private sessions, and it happens a lot in activations now too.
When you're one-on-one and you're in that hour and a half session and you're clearing and breaking, getting rid of the blocks, is it working with the person, or are you looking at it because you can like psychically sense
Yeah.
what's going on.
It's both. I mean, we have an exchange about a lot of experiences that are going on in their life, and during that exchange, they get to understand why these experiences are repeating and their part in them, and how it's actually happening, and that frequency of the light language just leaves them changed. I mean, it really
Huh.
does allow them to be feeling better, lighter, more allowing of themselves, more understanding that we can just freely live our lives and do it and be aware of it and get the results that we want because of it, that we don't have to be depriving, practicing, or policing ourselves necessarily. We just need to be aware because that divine presence thrives in our awakeness, in our awareness. When we go to sleep, when we think there's an outside cause, and that's what causes suffering. We didn't come here to suffer, and it's not inevitable. I've heard that statement before. Suffering is chosen. It's an emotion that's chosen that we feel over and over and over again. That's creating the experiences of suffering that we're having. So, um, and at the root of suffering, what really causes it is the idea that I can't have, be, or do something that I want when you already are that. So the
Right.
moment that you've wanted it, those things exist. And when you start to draw the conclusion that you don't have it, you can't have it, you're not good enough, you're going to suffer in that because your source is going to disconnect. It's going to move further and further away from that frequency that you're holding to let you know that's not true. I hold all that for you. And if you align to me, I will flow it to you. So that's really what it's at the root cause of suffering is a perception or belief that something I really want to be or have or express as is not available to me, and that's just not true.
Right. Oh, I love that. Yes, and I've taught my girls that our tagline is you can be, do, or have anything you set your mind to. I want to hear as a grandma. Let's end on that. I want to know what it's like as a grandma. Like you have two grandbabies
Yeah,
and they're all going to move with you and you're such a close-knit family. But
yeah,
I want you to explain what it feels like versus being a mother. And
yeah,
I want to understand how you, with parenting the boys and how have you intertwined any of this teachings that you've learned with
yeah,
them and their parenting? Or I know
yeah.
only one has a parent, but
Yeah, well, to touch on how does it feel, I always tell them it's love times two. It's just uh, such a high because we have all these worries and things that we believe that we have to teach. And it's kind of interesting. I had a transmission come out the other day that a human doesn't really need to be taught anything. Everything's in there. And we think we have to, and of course you want them to do certain things like maybe chew with their mouth closed or say please and thank you, these types of things. But when we hold a frequency of love, it stimulates their guidance system, and then they behave in ways that are very loving. They come right to that frequency, and so they're really good indicators to us on what we're holding. And I've certainly had my things that I would like to do over or that I could have done better. Let's say that in raising my kids, and so I allow them that space and that opportunity to just view themselves in their mistakes or what they might be doing well or not very well. From a grandmother's point of view, and then maybe holding the perspective that I have, there's so much less worry. There's so much more love. There's so much more satisfaction and understanding that, the view that you hold of your children means everything. The more that you fret and the more that you worry, and the more that you start to believe that something outside is going to influence this thing that you love so much, the more at risk you are for that happening. So,
mhm.
and I, of course, don't tell that to my kids. I think they know that on some level. But of course, being a parent is a 24-hour job, and you're human. You get tired. I have more freedom now. I have more. It's not that I am a spiritual person and I know the right things to do and I know better. It's easier to do that when you're not strung out and when everything isn't on you and you don't have a job and dishes and a house to keep up and school for kids to get to and backpacks to enter, empty. I remember all those things, and that's not an easy place to be. So you're not expected to do everything right, and so I certainly don't expect them to do everything right. I just try to lead by the best example that I can. And I think they're doing a wonderful job. They love their kids more than life itself, and that's really the most important thing.
Right. Oh, Robin, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
especially when you're moving and you could take the time, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Until next time.